Holla ballers and a meow! It's kitty time! Kitty, kitty, kitty! Well, what to say about the kitties? I'm going to cover it all. We're going to be looking at the talents, the reforging, the gemming, and so on and so forth. I think it would be prudent to say that I was terrified going into this and doing my studies as to what awaited me when I logged this spec. Beta, I quite enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. And then I started reading things that people had discovered. And one of the first things I noticed is people are like, well, of course your opener is to cast Wrath. And I'm like, what the fuck am I reading here? And then I checked some various sources and they were like, yeah, of course you cast Wrath when you open for 30 seconds. And then you go into cat form. I'm like, huh? Luckily enough, that is all gone. But still some interesting stuff works with the Feral Kitty to make it one of the most unique specs, capable of astronomically crazy DPS when things go nicely for them, and also quite simple to manage and stuff. Interesting. Let's jump into it and I'll cover everything as we go along. Okay, so Feral Druid, we obviously get Mangle, Rip, Mangle, Rake, Rip, Shred, and Savage Roar. Savage Roar is again our top priority, as it used to be. Finishing moves that increase physical damage done by 30%. We do physical damage, good news. So we want Savage Roar 100% of the time. We want 100% uptime on our Savage Roar. It gives us good stuff. The rest of the stuff, Mangle and Shred have been reworked, so they're pretty close to each other in terms of damage. Shred, of course, has the positional requirement of being behind the target. Deals 20% additional damage against bleeding targets. Mangle isn't too far behind. So in the old days of where feral kitties couldn't get behind the target, their DPS was just bad. It was just really bad. It's not really the case anymore. It's not as good as being behind the target, but it's still pretty cool. Let's jump into the talents. We're obviously Catty Farm. What talents do I recommend and why is the big question right now. First thing is your movement speed in place increase. Now, Cat Farm comes along with a nice passive increase in movement speed anyway. Feline Swiftness stacks with it, making Feral Cats, again, one of the fastest melee classes in the game. The fastest. They're speedy, speedy, speedy. Stacking those two up makes you in really good shape. There are some times, especially in your 5-mans, where literally getting behind the target is just a massive pain in the ass, and Cat Farm literally just fixes that for you with a 15-second cooldown. I ran into all sorts of issues when I was running my Heroic, trying to show you some stuff off, where I would have loved to have Wild Charge, but overall Feline Swiftness just allows you to move between targets faster, follow targets that are being dragged by a tank faster, and so on and so forth. You're generally going to get a better DPS increase out of that. There is some cause for Wild Charge in certain situations. Again, I leave it up to you. Pack your tone with clear minds and you can pick and choose as you feel good. Displacer Beast generally just pretty much sucks as it puts you into Prowl. If Ravage was slightly cheaper, then surely that would be better. But at the moment, Wild Charge or Feline Swiftness, pick what you like. In terms of healing, currently Cenarian Ward for the Druid, for the Kitty Cat, compared to how much healing we take while we are in Kitty Cat form, is giving the most healing. Okay? Something to bear in mind, it's giving the most healing. Now, that is a hot. I love Renewal. Renewal is packing a punch. It's 30% extra of your maximum health, and it's when you need it. If you're in, oh shit, dire consequences, boom, Renewal, 112k heal, happy, happy cat. Very happy cat indeed. That's why I tend to prefer Renewal. Nature Swiftness can even be considered a DPS cooldown now, and I'll get to that why. Personally, I prefer Renewal, but some of the ballers out there will be rolling with Nature Swiftness for reasons I'll explain later. Your next talent is entirely whatever the hell you want it to be. It's something that you can annoy people with. I've mentioned in pretty much every Druid video there are causes in raids for Typhoon to exist, as well as Mass Entanglement for that matter. Maybe even Fairy Swarm. But it'll be so situational. Swap it whenever you need it. You will know when you need one of them. Somebody will ask you for it probably, so don't need to worry about that. Soul of the Forest. Now we get some sort of DPS cooldown with our next tree. People always like to look at Incarnation and go, well, of course I'm going with Incarnation, right? I can line it up with everything, right? And in fact on beta this was the choice spell. It was the big DPS cooldown, but no longer. Soul of the Forest has pulled ahead. Force of Nature is also doing decent DPS, but again behind Soul of the Forest. That is as of recording this video. This could change in the future, but as of recording this video, Soul of the Forest is the best. Soul of the Forest gives your finishing moves grant 4 energy per combo point. Now we're pretty much always going to be using 5-point combo point, 5-point finishers on our Kitty Cat. Therefore, we're going to get a ton of energy back and allows us to do generally more DPS all over the place. Incarnation was pretty awesome when we could spam Ravage above 80% health and get an absolutely unbelievable burst of damage from the beginning of the fight. That was its main use. However, that's kind of leewayed off compared to having consistent high extra energy and lots of extra attacks as we go on. You are going to feel very energy starved at the beginning of your raiding on your Feral Druid. You are going to feel that pinch of being energy starved. That's going to happen. Level 75, you get something that is utility. Pick whatever the hell you like. I like Disorientating Roar for my 5-mans. I also like Mighty Bash. I also like Ursol's Vortex in some situations. They're all good things. They really are. They're all good things. They don't change you out of shapeshift form. Use whatever the hell you feel like, guys. Really. It's nothing that's going to improve your DPS tremendously. The one thing about Disorientating Roar is it can, in fact, just allow you to gather mobs up nicely, so that's not too bad. It just stops spell casting. It doesn't interrupt them. I just want to put that out there. It doesn't interrupt them in terms of silencing them, so they're not going to gather, but they can stop a tremendous amount of damage coming into your players, alright? Into your tank. It can help that little bit, and that's what's important. Level 90! We got our big DPS cooldown. Now, this is where it all goes a bit pear-shaped. For the longest time, Heart of the Wild was actually the top spell. Heart of the Wild allowed us to cast... This is what's so stupid about it. If you are not balanced, spell damage and hit chance increased. Mana cost of all damage spells reduced by 100%. Now, given how heals work and the translation of agility and stuff, increasing your spell power, it made Heart of the Wild very powerful. For the sake of it, I'm just going to talk quickly about Dream of Scenarios, which is what is currently the top DPS. Nourish, Healing Touch, and Regrowth increase your damage done by your next 2 melee abilities by 25%. Okay, 25%. Now you're thinking, really? Is healing part of my rotation now? Absolutely. I'm going to touch on this briefly because I also want to show you Heart of the Wild. In fact, I've got 2 tomes of the Clear Mind, so I'm going to switch over now. Let me learn Heart of the Wild very quickly. Okay, here's my Wrath. Go Wrath while I'm in kitty gear. Let me just reiterate again, I am in agility gear. 14k. Watch this. Heart of the Wild. Now watch what happens. 182k. 90k. 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 Yeah. See what I'm saying? Pretty retarded. So in fact, for the longest time, 180k. The longest time, not going into Kitty Cat and starting your fight, in fact wearing some intellect stuff and intellect potions and etc, and variations of, and popping Heart of the Wild and standing there and casting Wrath was your best feral melee DPS alternative. And it lasts for ages, 30 seconds. It lasts an absolute eternity. I'm pulling 71k DPS right now. I just want to point that out. Just chilling here. Just doing nothing whatsoever. I'm glad to say that it has fallen slightly behind. Wrath was nerfed. It was doing a hell of a lot more damage than what I just demonstrated for you there. In which case, Dream of Scenarios pulled ahead. Just reload my UI quickly. I get a slight add-on bug there. Yeah, insanity. Insanity. There was so much discussion. It's like, well, of course you're starting with Heart of the Wild and casting Wrath. I was like, are you kidding me? I chose Feral to be a melee player. What the fuck? Yeah, absolute insanity. Come on. You can't do that right now? Why not? I'm in combat. That's really annoying. Come on! I can't do that right now. I can't do that right now. Why can't I do that right now? I have no idea. I just can't. I have a Tome of the Clear Mind. Not going to let me do it. Okay, so I'll talk about Dream of Scenarios. That's kind of annoying. But never mind. Dream of Scenarios now involves doing healing touches. Now, healing touches in your rotation is going to increase your next melee abilities by 25%. I just want to show you this buff that you get from Predatory Strikes. I need to get to a finisher very quickly. Come on. And just use Rip. There you go. Predatory Instincts. This allows you to cast something, instant cast, and stay in your form, which is generally Healing Touch. So I can cast an instant cast Healing Touch there on myself for 50k with the Dream of Scenarios talent, which I just can't do. God damn it. Won't let me. With that Dream of Scenarios talent, that buffs my next melee abilities, and it lasts for the entirety of the fight, essentially. You're going to keep doing this. You're going to be casting lots and lots of healing touches on yourself. You need to get yourself binded with healing touch because of Dream of Scenarios. Now, it does only last 6 seconds, the Predatory Instincts buff. Let me see if I can rack it up again. Come on, give me any old finisher. Come on, there we go. It lasts 8 seconds, sorry. Now, in those 8 seconds, you're generally not going to be working your way back up to another finisher, which means it's going to be used a lot of shreds, a lot of rakes, a lot of thrashes and stuff like that, which is pretty cool. But you're going to get this constant buff throughout the duration of the fight, and it's going to be pretty damn awesome, okay? So Dream Scenarios is currently the top DPS. We'll see, I'm trying to switch to it. The game just isn't letting me, for whatever reason. So, there you go. Dream Scenarios is your recommended choice. Nature's Vigil is fine, but Dream Scenarios is winning. So, there you go. Glyphs. Let's look at some glyphs. The kitty cat ones, obviously, Glyph of Cat Form is just super awesome for raiding and heroics. Increase healing done to you by 20% while in cat form, including healing on yourself, so your renewal, all that kind of stuff. It just works so well. Pick up that Glyph. Glyph of Savagery is the one that is pretty much mandatory. Savage Roar can now be used with 0 combo points, resulting in a 12-second duration. Which means while we're in stealth, we're going to stealth here. We're going to prowl, I should say. I can use Savage Roar while I'm in stealth, and then I can start off my fight with that big Ravage, like we always like to see for 101k. Always a nice fight. It means we don't need to be generating combo points beforehand, so it's a great for pre-pulling, and it's great while we're trying to maintain these buffs throughout the fight, is that we can just use it without combo points. So if we struggle to get the rip up all the time and the rake up all the time, you just need to use Savage Roar with 0 combo points and you'll get it up, and you need it up 100% of the time. It's really, really useful. The other one I recommend is Glyph of Dash. Reduce the cooldown of Dash by 60 seconds. Moving and getting around faster wins the day. It's awesome. So cool. Let's talk about Reforging. Now, Reforging again on the Feral Kitty is a little bit wonky, a little bit fucked up, a little bit wonky indeed. I just want to point out I'm wearing tank gear at the moment. It's the only gear that I have on this character, so the gemming is not what you will be doing, okay? This is tank gear. You can see I've got Enchant Colossus and stuff, and I've even got a stamina trinket there, which you won't be using. Your statistics are like this. Mastery is so ridiculously good, which buffs our bleeds, that you want to be stacking Mastery as much as humanly possible. You want lots and lots of Mastery. You can see I've gone up to, on this character at the moment, I have gone up to amazing amounts of Mastery. Look, I'm stacking as much as possible, 4,000 Mastery. Mastery even overwrites hit and expertise. Now, what you notice is here, even for a melee character, my hit and expertise are very low, 2.5% and 1.5%. This is a choice you are going to have to make for yourself. Okay? This is a choice you're going to have to make for yourself. There are different numbers pulling out from Syncraft. The hit and expertise are not that important for a Feral Druid, and the reason for this is very simple, is you are very rarely at full energy to the point where you can't afford to miss some spells. There is very rarely that moment going to happen. You see, I can spam, I can afford to miss is the point. I can afford to miss, because while I'm doing my normal rotation without Tiger's Fury, my energy is always very low, which means I can afford to miss some damage. And so much of my damage comes from Rip and Rake and my bleeds, thanks to Mastery, that it is not technically worthwhile capping your hit and expertise. Now, some people just cannot stand missing. I'm one of those people. I hate missing. I pre-plan my attacks in the future, and I love the fact that when I press Shred and I press Rake that they make contact. It annoys me when they don't. It really does get on my nerves. So I'm not a great fan of this, but it actually makes total sense. Haste is your worst stat. Reforge off as much haste as possible. But you can see you're generally going for Mastery #1. And then you want Crit. You're not worrying whatsoever about hit. So if you have an item like this, which is haste and hit, both are crap. You're going to reforge off the haste. Hit is worth more than haste. Haste is garbage, garbage, garbage. Get rid of it as much as possible. If you have an item like that, nice perfect example there. If you have a haste hit item, for example, just get rid of the haste. But don't be reforging towards hit. You can see on no, it's reforging away expertise. If I have a mastery expertise item, I'm going to get rid of that expertise and get some crit. It seems weird. Some of you will be used to this. Feral Druids have always worked in a slightly different manner, considering their white damage and so on and so forth. So it's okay to do this, guys, okay? It's really cool. Your gemming, you're going to be gemming for as much mastery as possible. Gem that mastery and agility. Agi mastery gems and so on and so forth. You're still using your agility and 3% increased critical strike damage meter. That's fine. The agile primal diamond will still be your diamond of choice. And, of course, working all the way to make sure your mastery is up as high as possible. Let's talk about your rotation then. I wish I had Dream of Scenarios to sort of show this off, but thanks to... Hey, there we go. Awesome. Dream of Scenarios. Cool. So if I were... Let's pick a new target, so I'm doing fresh. So if I'm doing single target, it's actually very, very easy. You're going to kick off in Prowl. Use your Savage Roar as you're making the pull. Look at this. It gives you the buff here. It's a chance of that happening. Use your Healing Touch. Move in. Oh, don't do that, actually. That there breaks your stealth. I was just taken aback by the fact of that proc. So you would start in stealth. Let me get out of combat. back into Prowl. So you're starting off with a Savage Roar. Savage Roar is on, and Ravaging straight off the bat. Your Ravage is going to do nice big damage. You want to get your Rake on, and then you're going to work as quickly as possible to getting your Rip on. Blowing cooldowns and all that stuff. Now you're going to get your Dream Scenarios procs here. You want to use them as soon as possible. And of course, blowing Berserk and so on and so forth. Keep your Savage Roar on. Now your main goal is to keep Savage Roar on and Rip. Which means it comes down to eventually energy management. We're in this situation, there's 8 seconds left. Take your time. There is no rush to try and squeeze in a million ferocious bites. It's probably not going to happen. Make sure you're keeping on Rip and your Savage Roar. Be very picky about your ferocious bites. It's down to management and combo point management, okay? If you feel like I can fit one in, then go for it. But be aware, like there, I use the Saiga's Fury to get my Rip on. I just about get back with a nice 9 seconds to spare. I also have Savage Roar, I reckon. Now, due to the fact that we've got that glyph, what I could do is refresh my Rip like this, and then I can instantly Savage Roar because I've used the glyph. I don't need combo points for it. Picky out these tight situations. Clearcast procs. Clearcast procs are awesome. The best way to use them is to use them on Thrash. Now, Clearcast has a total pain in the ass way of proccing exactly when we don't need it. It procs while we're already pressing something and is instantly consumed. We hate that. We really, really hate that. I always hated that in the Feral Druid main when I played that in TBC. Or Wrath of the Lich King, I should say. Other than that, whenever your Clearcast does proc, try and use it on Thrash. Thrash is well worth it, especially if you're at this stage. I don't need combo points, but my energy is building up. Try and work in a Thrash. Lovely extra bit of DPS, but then your Clearcast procs as I'm pressing Rake, and I just used it on Rake. Get lost. Of course, below 25% using your Ferocious Bite. When it comes to your AoE DPS, you want to keep up your Savage Roar, and you're swiping and you're keeping up Thrash. That is literally it, and you're going to start doing tremendous amounts of damage. You really are. Your DPS is going to be crazy. Now remember, if you've got Dream of Cenarius, when you finally pull off that 5-point Savage Roar while you're AoEing, let's say there, I can pull off a Thrash, I've got that swipe going. Remember, swipes generating combo points. When I pull that off, I'm going to get the Dream of Cenarius buff again. So use the Healing Touch, and then continue to swipe. Preferably use it on Thrash, you get that nice big bonus to Thrash damage, and you can see doing 45k DPS without even trying or maximizing or anything there. So there's a few things to work on there, so I'm going to jump into a dungeon now and demonstrate these things for you as best I can. Hope you join me. Take it easy, ballers, and I'll see you next time.